Don't say you're on the run to the other.
Alright guys, there are a lot of unique mid lane mechanics that barely anyone knows but are the bread and butter to reach Immortal that I'm going to show you today. Extremely important mid lane mechanic is that once you hit level 6, you need to yell at your support, hey, I just hit level 6. Like, do it the moment you reach level 6, do it, just scream at them, hey, I got level 6, I need a +1 mid to kill the enemy mid. And if you say this in voice chat, what ends up happening is usually that the support will TP, you can RP him, skewer him, and your support can do the final stun so the enemy does not get away. Like, that's as simple as it gets. Because so many heroes like Storm Spirit, Emerald Spirit, they reach such a hard power spike at level 6, but they just need this +1 hero, you know? The runes will spawn soon, and a good pro player will nuke the Creep Wave as fast as possible. And what this does is that the enemy player cannot leave the lane to get the runes. You can basically grab both runes and the enemy player has to deal with the creeps. Like, he can technically not walk up to this. If he tries to, he will take a lot of damage. So the most basic mid lane mechanic is that you gotta know that once 4 creeps die, you will be level 2. If 1 creep gets denied, you won't be level 2. And what this does is actually that you can punish your enemy really hard if you nuke the wave and hit level 2 before him. So one other important mid lane mechanic is that if both mid laners draw CreepAggro at the same time, then what ends up happening usually is that 3 melee creeps will be on this RangeCreep and 3 melee creeps will be on this RangeCreep. And what people don't understand is that the melee player has to walk up and nuke the RangeCreep. And if Invoker wants to get the last hit on the actual RangeCreep, he will die for this. Another very important mechanic is that you understand how TowerAggro works. So it basically means that when you press Alt, you can see the tower range, the attack range, but this is not the aggro range. So if I right click on Bad Rider, when I'm here, I will not take the tower aggro. Like, I can literally stand here, right click the Bad Rider and will not take the tower aggro. But as soon as I'm crossing this barrier and right click the Bad Rider, I will take the tower aggro. But this also means you can set the tower aggro on a cooldown. Once you right click the Bad Rider, the tower aggro goes on cooldown for 3 seconds. So I right click Bad Rider, tower aggro on cooldown, I can hit Bad Rider, tower aggro is not on me. Let me show this again. I right click on Bad Rider, tower aggro is on cooldown for 3 seconds, I can hit Bad Rider and the tower will not attack me. And what people don't understand is that the same goes for creeps. When I'm inside the 400 range of the creeps and right click an enemy, the creeps will aggro me and attack me. But if I'm outside the 400 aggro range of the creeps, I can right click Invoker, set the aggro on cooldown and the creeps won't aggro me if I hit Invoker. So again, right click Invoker, it's on cooldown for 3 seconds, I can hit Invoker for 3 seconds without getting creep aggro. So a creeps won't aggro you when you're not in vision in the high ground. So you can set the creep aggro on cooldown by right clicking when you're not in vision, and then you can also hit Invoker without getting creep aggro. Another very basic mid lane mechanic is that you pretend to deny the creep and in the last second you draw creep aggro and this creep will basically never die. So imagine there was an enemy trying to hit the creep at the last second, you draw creep aggro, the creep won't die, you get the deny. That's how it's working. Like, if people do this, you see this a lot when they do this against a streamer like Mason or Sumail, what, like, their basic term, what they say is, are people still doing this in 2021? Like, now you know why they say this. Another very basic mechanic, very important mechanic is if we are enemies leaving for the runes or he's dead, you draw creep aggro and pull the creeps onto your range creep. And what ends up happening is that you can deny the range creep and the lane will naturally now push into your high ground and you can keep the creeps in your high ground. So another very important thing is if only like 2 or 1 creep is alive and they chase you into your high ground, don't take them under your tower. Literally don't take them under your tower. Stand still right here, hope that the enemy is not hitting you. And what ends up happening is that you will have the next creep wave in your high ground. And if you know anything about mid laning, having the creep wave in your high ground is one of the best things that can happen. Just another very extreme basic important mid lane mechanic is that you move your courier. Don't leave it in base, just move it right to this spot. Like you can actually see that when it's not inside the shop range, the shop will turn gray, but if it's inside the shop range, it will turn yellow. And it will literally take 2 seconds less to reach you, and you will get your items a lot quicker. And now we come to the most important mid lane mechanic that I consider the most important mid lane mechanic that people just don't understand, and it's too simple to reach. It is warding the rune. Yeah, you heard me right, this is the most important mid lane mechanic to me, to ward the rune. Because, like, okay, at the start of the game, every mid laner gets a ward, every mid laner puts it here or here, and then they never touch a ward again. But what they forget is that at minute 5, this ward will time out and you need to buy a second ward and place the second ward also in the rune range so you can see the rune, because runes determine whether you can gank or not, whether you're like, this gives so much information, people don't understand how important it is. So next one's called the RTZ Block. So you gotta click at this exact spot, and what ends up happening is that the next creeps will spawn on the upper side of the tower, so you can block them earlier and more effective. So in terms of ganking, I really recommend not to gank unless you have a strong power rune which will allow you to gank, or the enemies are like very close to your tower and you can TP in secretly and then kill them. Like, otherwise I do not recommend to gank other lanes, because it just costs a lot of time, it will not work out always, and if it's not working out, you're losing a very high momentum in the game. So the ideal scenario how to play the mid lane is not to gank, but to force rotations to your lane. If the enemy support needs to TP in to help, that's when you know you have done everything right, because when enemy support TP in, your other lanes will not have any enemies anymore, they will have the advantage, and that's how you win. So the next trick is called the 443 Topson Wave, and what you do is you sneak behind the tower, you grab the wave, you might take a little bit damage, but that's okay. You all the way over here steal it. Make sure the other creeps die in the enemy tower. Steady them here. And instead of letting your creeps die, you will try to continuously draw CreepAggro, so your creeps will all survive. You don't want to attack them, you don't want to nuke them very quick. Just keep them alive for as long as possible. Block them. Again, you want to just pull CreepAggro over and over again. And what will end up happening is that you will have a very huge double creep wave. And if you do this at minute 4:43, you will have the tower push 100% guaranteed. Anyways, thanks for watching and leave a like.